Mike Green has already signed. He's officially a Baltimore Raven. And Malaki Starks signed earlier in the offseason. Both defensive rookies, both drafted in the first 2 rounds, and both in the top 10 for odds at Defensive Rookie of the Year this year. So, how likely are the Baltimore Ravens' new players to win this award? Let's talk about it. Now, when you're looking at the Defensive Rookie of the Year award, a couple of things need to be taken into account. One, it's a pretty statistically driven award, meaning it's very difficult to win if you're not playing a position that racks up the statistics. Now, what does that mean? Statistics that matter in the NFL are two things on defense, maybe three: sacks, interceptions. If you want to add forced fumbles or turnovers or whatever, sure, you can do that. I think it's really just sacks or interceptions. That's almost exclusively how the award has been given out over basically the last 5 or 10 years. There are rare circumstances where linebackers are able to get the award because they lead really good defenses, and they have high tackle statistics. But the problem is the general consensus, the way that games happen, right? You can't watch every game in the NFL, or at least voters aren't going to watch every game in the NFL, right? They do not have the time. It's possible to be done. It is possible. But they got full-time jobs, right? They're reporters. They write about specific teams, or they, cover the NFL as a whole. They watch a majority of the games, but they can't watch every game. And with positions on defense, there are a couple that just statistics don't matter, right? Linebacker, the best linebacker in the NFL is not the linebacker with the most tackles. It's not the linebacker with the most TFLs. Now, sometimes they correlate, right? But a lot of times it's just the best linebacker is the best linebacker. And there's, and you just got to watch the team to show it. But a lot of the best linebackers, when they get drafted, right, they're not on these elite teams. So people aren't watching them. And they might not be racking up the statistics. They might not be racking up the things that are going to pop off the chart, when in reality, like, hey, they might be the best rookie, best defensive rookie, but they're not going to win the award. Okay. So that makes it very difficult for linebackers. And unfortunately, it also makes it very difficult for safeties, because safeties typically get a little bit less interceptions than corners, because corners, people focus in on the corners, right? Rookie cornerbacks, they get a lot of hype because when they have those matchups, whether it's their first game against Justin Jefferson or their first game for the Ravens, right? Nate Wiggins last year playing against Jamar Chase, playing against George Pickens, like those are highlighted matchups, right? You get to really see the one-on-one battles. So kind of the hype, the narrative is being able to be created when they face up against those guys. And if they're able to do a good job of locking them down, example, Sauce Gardner in his rookie season, right? You get that hype and people are like, dude, this guy's a shutdown, because people talk about those matchups. You really don't talk about the safeties. So Malachi Starks, who is 9th in odds, 8 plus 1800s, according to DK, plus 1800. I just don't see Malachi Starks winning the award. Now, could he potentially be the best defensive rookie? Yeah. But like I said, the statistics don't matter as much. And so it's really about just eye test when it comes to safeties and linebackers, meaning it's really hard to get that award. So really it's most likely going to come down to who gets the most sacks in the NFL this year, unless a cornerback comes out or a DB comes out and gets 5 or 6 interceptions. And as good as Malachi Starks is, putting that sort of expectation or thought, even like, you don't even want to consider that as a possibility, because that would be such a phenomenal rookie season that, you don't even want to get that in your head, because anything else would be a disappointment. Because Malachi Starks could be the best defensive rookie in the NFL and only have 1 pick. Might have 0 picks, right? Nate Wiggins allowed 0 touchdowns last year. He had 1 pick 6. He's not going to get talked about. He had a forced fumble as well on CeeDee Lamb. But I don't think Malachi Starks can win it. But Mike Green, sitting at 3rd in the odds, plus 1,200, tied with Travis Hunter. The odds would indicate that, hey, he's also tied with Jahad Campbell as well. But like I talked about, linebackers, very difficult to win. Travis Hunter, it'd be really tough for Travis Hunter to win. So the only guys ahead of him, Abdul Carter and Jalen Walker. Jalen Walker, the assumption is he's going to be a pass rusher. I know he is kind of an off-ball linebacker as well, but I'd assume the Falcons are going to utilize him as a linebacker. Abdul Carter, he's a terrific pass rusher, right? We know this. Jalen Walker, terrific pass rusher. But the thing that differentiates them from Mike Green, because Mike Green, also great pass rusher, those guys are in spots where they're going to play. Mike Green is not going to be the Ravens' number one pass rusher. If he is, like, props to him, but that's not the expectation. The Baltimore Ravens drafted him because they're looking at Odafe Oweh on the last year of his contract. They're looking at David Ojabo. They're looking at Kyle Van Noy, who had a career year last year. But David Ojabo, who is yet to really prove himself. They also have not Abdul Carter. They have Adisa Isaac, former Penn State guy, obviously Tavius Robinson. But Mike Green, I think, is being looked at as that situational third down pass rusher. He's going to be competing with David Ojabo for that spot. Can he beat David Ojabo? Yes, potentially. We haven't really seen what David Ojabo can do. He's started in a couple of games. He's gotten a couple of strip sacks. He's gotten a couple of sacks, but he's really struggled to stay healthy. And that's a big problem for the Ravens. And they wanted a guy that can be the situational pass rusher this year, but down the line, be the number one pass rusher for the Ravens. That's the type of potential that he does bring. But I've seen a lot of people talking about Mike Green, 12 sacks. And this is from comments of YouTube shorts, TikToks, longer form videos that I've done where we talked about Odafe Oweh. Unfortunately, Joshua and I talked about Mike Green for like 10 minutes in our most recent recording, but it was about him not signing his contract yet. And of course, the day before we post the video, Mike Green signs the contract. But we talk very highly of Mike Green. The expectations are high. We think he will play very well. But I think expecting anything over 5 sacks is very aggressive, very, very difficult for him to pull off, unless there's any sort of injury or something that allows him to get more opportunities, knock on wood. Like, it's going to be very difficult for him to get like meaningful snaps because we have 2 10-sack pass rushers on our defense that can only play edge. And Mike Green only plays edge. And we've got really good pass rush on the interior. When he comes in, he will be the last one looked at. He will have opportunities. But I just unfortunately don't see Mike Green winning Defensive Rookie of the Year. As good of a talent that he is, he just doesn't have the opportunity. Abdul Carter, Jalen Walker, the hype of Travis Hunter, the unbelievable skill set of like a Mason Graham potentially. I just don't see how Mike Green would be able to get the statistics to win the award when the only thing people care about in the NFL for pass rushers is sacks. There's no way he leads rookies in sacks, which is unfortunate. But at the same time, Ravens fans, Mike Green, Malaki Starks, it doesn't matter if you win this award. The Baltimore Ravens, the team, Lamar Jackson, a man who should potentially have 3 MVPs. Lamar Jackson does not care about winning MVP. Derrick Henry doesn't care about winning Offensive Player of the Year. They don't care about these individual awards. They care about one thing. They want to win the Super Bowl. If Mike Green comes out and he has one impact play in the playoffs, that's a success. That's the type of thing that we brought these rookies in. Somebody commented saying, you're putting a lot of pressure on these rookies, or you're just expecting so much out of these rookies because you said the Ravens have a top 5 defense in the NFL when you're adding Malaki Starks and Mike Green. And that was the reasoning. And I'm like, well, they're additions. Malaki Starks was a premier safety in college football the last 3 years. Mike Green was one of the most productive pass rushers in college football the last couple of years. He dominated at Marshall. He dominated the Senior Bowl. The expectation is this is a damn good football player. So yeah, we can have hype for them. But that doesn't mean hype has to turn into over-exaggerating our expectations because we want them to win awards. Don't set yourself up for disappointment because you want your rookie to win Defensive Rookie of the Year when in reality they're not in a situation that allows them to truly capture that title. Instead, expect them to be an impact player because then you're not upset if they only have 3 sacks, because if those were 3 big sacks, you got yourself a baller. Let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts, your opinions. Who's going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year? I honestly don't know who I would pick. Maybe Donovan Ezeraku because that's my guy. I love that guy in the draft class. You guys know that. But thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe for more. Check out the TikTok, the Instagram, TTB Gaming. I'm going to be live streaming on Twitch, I believe either tomorrow or Wednesday. So make sure to check out the Twitch. But I'll see all of you again next time.